Hey everybody, welcome back to You Are Free TV. It is Friday, TGIF, November 7th, 2025. I'm so glad to be back with you here tonight on a Friday. Uh, thank God I'm free and thank God it's Friday. It is an incredible news day once again, of course, as always. And I'm so glad to be back with you here. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Everybody supporting monthly makes it happen, and I'm so appreciative of you. And so we're just going to jump in with my disclaimer. This video is for entertainment purposes only. It is protected by the United States Constitution, protecting free speech, as well as the Sullivan Act and reporting. It is not intended to bully or harass anyone, never to incite violence, hatred, or lawlessness of any kind. It doesn't give legal, medical, or financial advice, and there are further disclaimers in the description below. I'm so glad to be back with you. This is getting up kind of late on a Friday night. And so I hope you have a great weekend. We're just going to jump right in here with the news. And I wanted to follow up from yesterday with the collapse of Gordon Finlay out of Novo Nordisk, out of Denmark. And this was, of course, in the Oval Office, and it had everything to do with, the announcement that Ozempic and this Gila monster venom and the Spangler fish, is great to take in your body, those toxins. He collapses after announcing that he is taking the Ozempic. And it's very interesting as we understand now that Novo Nordisk has a larger amount of money, okay, than the entire GDP of Denmark. Okay, they're out of Denmark, and they make more money than the entire country of Denmark. All right, and so much of this has had to do with the enormous, of course, overpricing, whatever. Does it matter? Of course, the USA being huge buyers of Ozempic and these weight loss drugs, of these poisons, these venoms and toxins. And I described so much yesterday. Um, I don't know, never, ever see it. But that movie, Human Centipede, again, never, ever see it. If you haven't seen it, don't ever see it. But if you have seen it, this is what this is. It is this situation of these venoms and poisons getting into your body, and it's kind of a takeover of your body. You can look up things like Ozempic feet, Ozempic head, start to look at, a lot of these lawsuits have been coming out against this. And so the collapse of Gordon Finlay yesterday, I think, was just, God, okay, basically warning humanity there that, don't take these drugs for entertainment purposes only. And so, to understand that Novo Nordisk has a larger profit margin than the entire country of Denmark, probably tells you all you need to know. And Eli Lilly, of course, is in a massive competition with them for these profits. So very interesting to watch this with Eli Lilly, Mounjaro, and what's going to come. It's disgusting, and so I wanted to just cover that, starting out to go back to yesterday. And so there's so much happening right now. Huge breaking news on the pipe, BOMBER, that they've identified this person. This largely has to do with an independent journalist using biometrics out of the gate of the person, of the pipe, BOMBER, out of J6, and how it's been covered up for all of these 4 years and 5 years, and it's just been a huge deal. Well, massive breaking news on that we're going to get into shortly. But I do want to cover this. The subpoenas are coming fast and furious here. We're going to be seeing huge things against John Brennan. This is coming out, justthenews.com. John Solomon, of course, doing great work here. But these 30 to 40 subpoenas are about to break. And this is being built upon James Comey. And it's huge. It's hugely why they needed to. We know there was so much fraud in this last election that just happened. getting Abby Spanberger into Virginia. She literally is a John Brennan sock puppet. She is a puppet and a person of John Brennan to be the governor there in Virginia, and of course now the AG with Jay Jones and his, open murderous contempt for anybody who goes against his agenda. This is, of course, to fight all of this that's coming down in Virginia. And so very interesting to watch. But what we're hearing from John Solomon is that with this conspiracy against rights and this huge RICO case that they're building, and it goes in, I think the pipe, BOMBR, a case about to break here, and Nancy Pelosi saying she's not going to run again, and everything with the pay for play, auto pen pardons of the J6 Commission, all of it. But we're going to find that this conspiracy against rights goes into the full coup d'état that we all know about, and we called so much to do with. We kept calling it the Fedsurrection for so long, but it is actually just the government deep state coup. And this is going to be coming out because this person with the pipe, BOMBER, seemingly worked for the Capitol Police. We'll get into that very shortly. But what we're looking at here is that this new breaking news around the pipe B, I'm just going to call it the pipe B, could take down the whole thing, to do with that this is a nonpartisan coup of the deep state reaching up into, for entertainment purposes only, Nancy Pelosi, Mike Pence, right up in there, Mitch McConnell, to have the coup against Trump in the 2020 election and try to create such a massive event that it would be a martial law scenario that they weren't able to fully pull off. But what we're going to see here, according to John Solomon, is that by the end of this year, within the next 7-8 weeks, is about 150 subpoenas and charges going out there to multiple people involved in this grand conspiracy case that they are building. So it's really huge, it's really massive, and we should be all very, very excited about it. And so I'm going to get deeper into that in a few minutes, but I wanted to mention Viktor Orban at the White House today because this is also huge. So much going on. We've got Viktor Orban today. I thought he was coming next week, but he was today at the White House, and just incredibly, just so, just super based and super knowledgeable, sitting there with Trump compared to so many others, just very, very real. As the real person he is, he made a point of pointing out that he is the longest standing prime minister in the EU, surviving prime minister, he is the way he put it. But basically he said, we're here to repair the damage done by the Biden administration. And for 6 years, that he has been, dealing with just massive, because of Russiagate and everything, inability to properly reconnect with Trump since the last time they met 6 years ago. He basically said, when it comes to energy and all the stuff about can't buy Russian oil and all this, he said, we are Hungary. We have one pump, we have pipelines, we get gas, it comes out of Turkey, etc. All of this, but we really have to deal with this situation of, oil from Russia. That's just the way it is. And we are the only country in the EU that considered itself a modern and moderate Christian government versus the massive liberal EU godless cartel, which he said very openly, which was very exciting. He said Brussels is not a pro-peace. They want the war to continue. This is all Orban in the White House today saying this very clearly to the public. It was just fantastic. They want the war to continue and to falsely believe that Ukraine can win. We already know that Ukraine has not won. Well, we already know that Russia has won and that Russia has been very staid. They could have taken the whole country. They have been very staid. And he's basically saying, we need to end this war. And what we're going to see, I think, over the weekend, that we're going to see some huge, well, basically, Trump already said we're going to reset up the meetup with Putin in Hungary, in Budapest, and that this will be coming to fruition. And what he also said is in Hungary, we have zero illegal immigration. No one enters Hungary without permission. We are sanctioned by the EU for this because we would not agree to the UN Pact on Migration that has been codified by the EU and imposed on all the countries in the EU. And he said, for this, we are fined 1 million euros every single day. Every single day for their refusal to agree to the mass Muslim migration into Europe. Very, very incredible stuff here. He said crime levels in Hungary are close to naught, very, very low crime, and all we want is this golden age relationship with the USA. And yeah, really, really great, exciting stuff. So he also made it really clear that we were hugely, that the EU was pressured from the US Trotskyites of the Biden Otto Penn regime, that it was the US pressuring to have this war with Russia, with Ukraine, creating the Ukraine coup, etc. He didn't say that part, the coup, but basically saying this war came out of the US under Biden and before that, when they set it up, and that we know that's what's going on here and we want to stop it. So very, very exciting. Trump came out and responded to this and said Biden pushed for that war, and now look at how many are dead, okay, and how much Russia is now harmed by it too, and went on from there. So I just want to put out here again, okay, and I know I'm 12 minutes in, but the filibuster, okay, it's time to end the filibuster. We will not be able to save this country in the time that we have between now and the midterms if we don't end the filibuster. It is not constitutional, okay? The filibuster wasn't created by our founding fathers. It is not part of the Constitution. And I want everybody watching this video, please share it, please thumbs up, do whatever you can. But even if you don't, at least text and put out on your own socials, end the filibuster, okay, with these phone numbers, 202-224-3121, okay, for the Senate, and then 202-224 for Leader Thune. We want to pressure the Senate that we want the filibuster to be ended, because we know what's going to happen on the other side. If we can't get the election secured, what just happened in this last election, a complete travesty with millions and millions of illegals voting across the board from New York to California, all of it, all the criminality with the ballots, all of it. We won't be able to stop it if we can't have our government that is now in power, okay, with the House and the Senate, even though they suck. Okay, if we can't pressure them and make them do this, we won't be able to get election reform. We won't be able to stop the stealing of the elections. Make the call. Make the call, share the numbers. It is so important to do so. And so I just wanted to just be clear about that. My strong feelings that this is really what needs to happen, because without it, we don't have a hope to stop. We're fighting a Leviathan. We're fighting a Leviathan. It is so huge and it is so everywhere, okay, with these pay-for-players that just want to make the money. They want to be on, in their eyes, the winning team, which is a satanic bankster cabal, okay, controlling everything, using the the Islamic invasion, using all of the ways that they clowered and piven us to keep us, absorbed with these minutia. That is not the most important thing. The most important thing is not only saving the country, but also educating the people to understand the larger picture. Americans are very sequestered, very stopped from understanding the larger picture of world history and what's going on in the world right now. I watched an amazing interview with Tucker Carlson today, and I will be getting into that, but he was talking to a Jewish lawyer who is an international lawyer working so hard for the Christians in Ukraine, okay, in Armenia. A prayer breakfast coming up in Ukraine that I think Donald Trump Jr. is going to be attending, where the entire incarcerated, abused, tortured, real Christian Church of Ukraine has been stopped and thwarted, and there's going to be this prayer breakfast, that is complete bunk, while there is, the Armenian slaughter that's still going on to do with Azerbaijan, Israel, giving them all of their drones, all of their weapons that actually comes from the U.S. funding of Israel's military, and it's so important to understand that we are in this global attack. All right, the USA is occupied by foreign globalist powers with a fascist Nazi aim, true Nazis as the Azov Battalion, etc., in Ukraine, and all of the Trotskyite cartel that was the Otto Penn Biden presidency running it all. And so I know I'm kind of ranting, but it's Friday night and I'm kind of pissed off about it all. And so I wanted to mention that, but I want to get into the situation with the pipe beer that is kind of breaking, and hopefully over the weekend we'll be getting some huge news. Meanwhile, Kash Patel's in China. He did a stop in Korea, now he's in China, right? There's those weird $5 million in stocks out of China with Kash Patel. And that we're coming up hard against some Susie Wiles, Pam Bondi stuff here to do with this cover up, to do with the pipe BOMBER that was so everybody was chasing after it, for a couple of years, really, really hard, right? And now it's breaking, and this has everything to do with Steve Baker, who was actually arrested. He was covering J6 on the day, and was there, and he was there as a journalist, and he was basically, just covering it. He ends up getting rolled up and arrested by the FBI when he was in, I think, in Dallas, Texas, and he gets, some misdemeanors. They tried to get him with felonies, and all of this, okay, is coming down to the fact that it was not so much a Fedsurrection, it's been a Fed cover-up since, but this comes straight out of Capitol Police, told to do what they did by, for entertainment purposes only, the higher-ups, likely Nancy Pelosi, likely Mike Pence up in there, Mitch McConnell, and of course, there's so many we can't forget, but we'll be talking about them in a minute, but we have to kind of look at it. So Glenn Beck has been kind of breaking some of this today, but not really going out and saying it all. We're hearing the initials SK about this woman who was the pipe BOMBER, who put these fake things around. And it was to really launch a huger, larger situation, putting one outside the Black Congressional Congress, and all of this, and why we are, having to understand that this is a Capitol Police officer, okay, that they have identified with using basically biometric gait intelligence, where they analyze a person's gait, they compare it to all the officers who were operational that day out of the Capitol Police, and compare it against everybody, and they have like a 98% match to this one woman, I think with the initials SK, again for entertainment purposes only. And then we get, in the last couple of days, Pelosi announcing that she's leaving the government finally, after almost 40 years. And so very interesting here as we're watching this with Steve Baker coming out. And he's a journalist in his 60s. He's been working on this for years. And no inside access, no intelligence, anything. He's just literally doing this to prove what happened. And this can bring the whole thing down. And as we're watching, as John Solomon is saying, we're going to have huge amounts of subpoenas here by the end of the year. This Arctic frost thing is leading up to something huge, in addition to basically show that it's the same people from Russiagate and pre-Russiagate, the same people to the impeachments, the same people to J6, the same people to after that with after Arctic frost, the same people all the way up, okay, until right through the Biden regime, the constant attack on Trump and everybody, the lawfare against everyone, and of course the persecuted fodder of the J6ers who survived and many didn't. All of this incarceration, and they all deserve massive compensation for what they've gone through. And so this is, this is about the overthrow of our government. And I'm preaching the choir here, but I think this is a huge story that is going to break everything massively. And so let's pray for the protection and safety of that actual Capitol Police officer, who it seems like is the person who planted these fake devices, and so that they don't take her out, and that we get to the bottom of this. So huge stuff going on. We're looking at them all. It's Jamie Raskin, whose father was the Trotskyite, who was in charge of the whole Marxist um, think tank that was involved in the 70s, right up through the 60s and 70s, right up through trying to, push this Trotskyites into the government and all of it. His wife was involved in the Mike Flynn prosecution, and it just goes on and on. You just can't make it up. All these people with basically Ukrainian heritage, it's nuts, but it's true. And it's, I think, going to be reaching into Susie Wiles and remember with Bondi and the whole Israel attack on Matt Gaetz, trying to capture him um, in this honeypot things to make sure he wasn't the AG, and they brought Bondi in. So we're going to be seeing what goes on here. It's going to bring everybody in. You get your David Buckley, who was the IG for John Brennan, who signed off on this Jack Smith stuff, J6 Commission, the special counsel, and what's going to be going down with Jack Smith, because he is screwed. So, and he should be. He should be absolutely behind bars, and I think will be soon. And so I wanted to make sure that I mentioned that, and also just a reminder with Todd Callender, as I've been talking about for years now, that Todd Callender, the constitutional lawyer, had been exposing for the last few years how the Biden regime, so many of them, like so many of the cabinet, the people high up, Merrick Garland, all of them, Lisa Monaco et al., for entertainment purposes only, never had a legal oath of office that was completed and registered, okay? And that this attempted coup, okay, this treason, okay, this attempt to overthrow the U.S. government, which happened with the 2020 election, was that they didn't complete their oaths of office legally, always made sure something wasn't there, wasn't right, it wasn't quite done, and to protect themselves from treason, so that at the end of the day they can say, hey, well, I didn't really have an oath of office, so I was just impersonating a government officer for the lesser charges below treason. So very interesting there, and we're just going to keep watching it as it breaks this weekend. I think it's going to be quite a weekend. We think Andrew Bailey might be, he's been hanging out there. The former AG of Missouri came in, brought in close to be co-assistant director of the FBI, right? And we all thought, oh, Bongino, he's out, he's running, we don't know what's going on with him, he hates his job. But it looks like, again, and I said this a couple months ago, that he will be, likely taking over for Kash Patel if all this goes down, and this cover-ups have been ongoing. And And I think this reaches in, again, for entertainment purposes only. We have to look at this, as I mentioned in my last video or the one before it, the situation with C. Kirk and what happened with UVU and this whole situation of event strategies. I keep bringing it up because I think it's important. Okay, that J6, okay, that came out in Arctic frost with Grassley, that they were going after looking at event strategies, who was hugely involved in the staging of the rallies, etc., that went completely wrong and wonky, got changed all around, and that there was supposed to be just this huge, ginning up of the crowd, using non-lethal armaments to get them all riled up, peaceful patriots, but will get pissed off if you attack them enough. However, what I'm saying is they were also the ones that were employed at this UVU rally, okay, with very strange things coming down with the media about them. I've covered it in my other videos, but I want to mention what George Webb had put up today, and he was saying, well, it looks like the FEC was looking into $10 million to do with TPUSA, because they were looking into TPUSA to do with going after with Arctic frost. And but the situation of, and again, this is for entertainment purposes only, and Webb said himself, this can't be proven, but it keeps coming around. The situation of this Ukrainian mercenary group called ziklag, and these are mercenary assassins out of Ukraine. And I'm sure, Lindsey Graham could tell you all about them, right? John McCain probably could if he was still living. And basically that they have $100,000 bounties on Russian generals. There's all this money for these assassins. But this something about TPUSA, a missing $10 million. And Kirk was like, right before he was killed, hey, we need Doge. Well, there's tons of weird money. What's going on with the money? And we need a Doge here at TPUSA. And of course, the Egyptian plane, I've been talking about it going through Delaware, back to Cairo, Delaware, Provo, Cairo, Delaware, this place, the other place, always going around with diplomatic immunity to not be searched. Nobody can be held accountable for anything. And Delaware being this kind of huge tax haven. But, we have to wonder about, is there a there with this? Because it looks very interesting, ziklag, and the missing 10 million. So I wanted to throw that in there because I think it's quite important. And then I'm going to move on to the situation with, as Orban and Trump are meeting, and we know Orban's coming in with some, huge ideas for resolutions for the war with Ukraine and Russia. And, huge love between Trump and Orban. And Orban standing strong, okay, against the EU, clearly saying that they are the ones inciting the war to continue. That was begun and pushed by the Biden regime, but now has grown into its own Leviathan there in the money cash cow, and they want that 350 billion in assets. Just put it in a bank, right? Just put it in a bank, says Condoleezza Rice yesterday. And so we've got the Azov Battalion Nazis of Ukraine literally taking over command and control now, where the people are rioting in the streets saying, the corruption is so awful. There's not, we're just screwed. We're just here. Like, we're just here. This war is happening, but basically it's just a giant corrupt cash cow. And so we're going to be watching what comes out of the Orban and Trump meeting, because Orban said we have some really clear ideas how we can get this ended quickly. And there's this Jewish lawyer, and I just say he's Jewish because it's poignant, because he's defending all of these Christian groups across Ukraine and Armenia and across into Africa, even big in the Nigeria stuff, saying, hey, the Nigeria stuff is kind of wonky because literally what we have here in Nigeria is this French connection, the French connection. We have basically that France, after Hillary came and saw and Gaddafi died, right? And then they tried to put Sarah Bronfman, Bronfman and her father and Hillary besties. He was head of the American Jewish Congress, stealing all the for entertainment purposes only, all the recovered assets of the Jews that were slaughtered in World War II. Sarah Bronfman, with her private island in the Pacific, her husband was French, and he was trying to be implanted in a color revolution in Libya to become president. It failed. It didn't happen. But it's interesting here that now we're hearing Abby Amsterdam saying that the French armed the Tuareg tribal group in Nigeria massively, and the Libyan overthrow gave all of the arms to Boko Haram. Okay, so you can, obviously the war on terror, the mass trafficking, McCain, all of it, Lindsey Graham, all of them with the weapons trafficking, and Boko Haram. Okay, killing the Christians, which is like 46% of the population. We're not talking a minority. It used to be much higher until the Islamic invasion there. And he's basically saying, we're dealing with an overthrow that isn't the Nigerian government's situation. This is a globalist takeover going on. And of course, the CCP hugely involved here as their Belt and Road initiatives. They want that land. They want the people they can control who aren't the Christians. They want the Muslims to prosper, and they want the slaughter to continue. Just like they want to gin up everything here happening in the USA that has really long-lasting implications, like Mamdani, like all of them. They're puppets, yet the caliphate is real, okay, and the spread and the control and the money. I believe CARE just lost its nonprofit status, so that's a good start. But how about Muslim Brotherhood becomes a terrorist designated organization, and they go after Huma Abedin, they go after Barack Obama, and they go after the Muslim Brotherhood in the USA. But one really amazing thing that that came out in this Tucker Carlson interview that I linked below, I believe it just came out today, was they're talking about how in Armenia, the massive, there's been 20,000 Christians killed just recently in Armenia. And I've been talking about this for a couple of years too, with Israel giving them drones and arms and mercenaries and all of this, and to Azerbaijan, giving them to Azerbaijan to kill the Christians. Okay, so the Muslims, again, the Muslims are the arm of the globalists to create terror and mayhem and death and destruction. Okay, that's what they do. And it goes way back to the Armenian genocide, the early 20th century. And of course, that was 98% of the Armenians refused to convert to Islam. They had been Christian since the year 200, even before Constantine got there. 200 AD, like they're old Christian community. And basically what we've seen in the last 30 years is just this massive intentional attempt to destroy the Christians of Armenia. And we see it all over the place. Okay, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Kosovo, all of it. Just the constant, the West, the US, the globalists, the MI6, the cabal, okay, the bankster cabal, inserting Islam everywhere to destroy the Christians, who are the only ones who can defy the New World Order, who want to, who know what it means, okay, to stand against a cabal who wants to create planetary tyranny and destroy the world and create a totalitarian, transhumanist takeover. Okay, full technocracy, full control, with the AI breakthrough, and we're at this precipice of, can we capture AI to be used for humanity versus against it? And that's where we stand now. And what Abby Amsterdam was saying is that the U.S. government and the State Department is hugely covering up this global Christian genocide destruction. And this recent Nigerian focus is so small compared to what's going on in Ukraine, in Armenia, what's happened in the Balkans. That this massive, not to mention that the that who I talked about before, the ziklag, being connected to the ADF candidates, okay, who have been murdered in Germany. The ADF in Germany being, excuse me, ADF or AFD, AFD, ADF, AFD, I think. Sorry, AFD in Germany. All those candidates, like I think it's up to 16 candidates, okay, that have been killed in Germany, and they're connecting this Ukrainian cartel of mercenaries, ziklag, connected to that, and all of this is coming out of our stolen taxpayer dollars, basically, and it's disgusting. And so as we look at this, and I'm just going to wind down here, it's going to be a little bit shorter today. We have the Prime Minister of Armenia now totally captured, a Christian in name only, basically aligning with the sort of Turkey push, the Erdogan push of the caliphate into Armenia and through Azerbaijan. And this connects with Israel hugely to do with this road to the north of where Azerbaijan meets Iran, and this kind of a competition with the CCP with their Belt and Roads to kind of control this whole railway and situation north of there, to do with pipelines, to do with all of it, with their planned canal that they want to build their, the Ben Gurion Canal, to compete with all of it. So that's part of all of it. But basically, what Abby Amsterdam is saying, we have 3 archbishops imprisoned now by the supposedly Christian Prime Minister of Armenia for speaking out against him, right? 3 mayors and the family of the patriarch of the real church there, all imprisoned. And this is the Armenian apostolic church, which is 90% of the people of Armenia, and this 1,000+ years old church there. And this is the larger Christian genocide issue that we're talking about. Europe already being hugely gone to an atheism or not a strong religious presence, okay? And that's what needs to be rebuilt and redone as the, Nazi, totalitarian, satanic cabal is just destroying everything in Ukraine to do with the church. And Zelensky is using secret police to, menace, arrest, torture the Christian leaders there. And so all this coming out, and we're watching it happen. And I just wanted to, I know it's like I wanted it to be a good news Friday, but it's kind of just the news, okay? It's what's going on. And it's just really important that Americans kind of understand that our place in this globe, and we're not immune. We don't have borders between us and what the deep state is doing in the global cartel. We have our taxpayers, our country, our treasure has all been stolen to go and fund and make it all happen with the deep state cabal that's been running the government. So let's break the filibuster, shall we? Shall we get some action? Shall we save our elections? Shall we shut down the fraud and the stealing? And hopefully there's going to be massive stuff between all the indictments coming by the end of the year to do with the grand conspiracy on the coup to attempt to overthrow the U.S. government, okay, aligning with the revelations with the pipe, BOMBER, implicating all these people at the top of our government, and the larger picture of how this is interconnected with all the other globalist government players out of the EU is huge. And I believe that the Viktor Orban Trump meetup today is a huge piece in this gaining momentum solution that's coming. Okay, the plan. All right, the plan, whatever you want to call it, the 25D chess. I believe that this is all coming to fruition. And so I wanted to share that with you tonight. And yay, have a happy Friday night, right? No, it's great. It really is great. I know it sounds dismal, but it's happening. It's happening anyway. So you can not know it or you can know it. I believe, I've always believed my whole life, knowing it is better because then you can deal with it, right? If you don't know it, it's affecting you anyway. It's controlling you outside of yourself. Ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is control, right? And then shut it all out. Spend time with your friends and family, with your fellowship this weekend, but talk about these things with people. Hey, my Christian friends, did you know what's going on in Armenia? Do you know what's going on in Ukraine? Do you know that there's just giant Christian genocide across the world? It's a huge problem, I think, especially with the evangelical community, et cetera, that these things are just brushed over. And so, anyway, I wanted to point that out tonight. And so, thanks so much for watching. If you want to support the channel, if you found something helpful in this video or just enlarging your understanding, please support the channel. There's ways to do so below. And you can support my sponsor as well. And didn't do much of that tonight, but c60evo.com/YAFTV. Use the code YAFTV for 10% off. Everything you need to know about them is in the description below. It is an incredible, incredible supplement that cleans out your mitochondria, which is the power of your cells and your DNA, to restore you to God's plan for you. So check it out below. You are free. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Thanks so much for watching and for supporting the channel. You are free, and I will see you on Monday.